It goes without saying that the world of comic books is filled with epic battles between heroes and villains. I mean, it's kind of the reason we all started reading them in the first place, right? But some battles are a bit more epic and grand than others, operating on a whole different power level than most superpowered fights, and oftentimes involving the fate of an entire multiverse, or somehow even bigger stakes. Hey everybody, I'm Josh Busker, and today we're going to be taking a look at the top 10 most powerful superheroes who fought the most powerful villains. Let's get right into it, shall we? Coming in at number 10, we have a particularly memorable battle between Batman and Darkseid. While most battles between these two foes have been more strategic or mental affairs, given the vast power difference between the human Batman and the godlike leader of Apocalypse, this occasion called for a bit more brute force. When Darkseid had stolen the body of a temporarily deceased Damian Wayne, his father wasted no time in launching a full-scale attack on Apocalypse to return Damian's remains home. Using an incredibly unstable exoskeleton called the Hellbat armor that's power alone nearly killed Batman just by wielding it, Batman was able to defeat Darkseid's son and then face the new god in physical combat while his companions escaped. It was a 1 in a million plan that just barely succeeded, but it just goes to show that even an ordinary man like Bruce Wayne can stand up to an evil god. At number 9, we've got to go with an iconic clash between Superman and Imperiex. A lesser-known Superman villain from the year 2000, Imperiex claimed to be the being that lit the fuse on the Big Bang, and wanted to cause a similarly huge explosion to end the current DC universe. Naturally, the heroes of Earth banded together to stop this intergalactic threat, but found themselves outmatched when Imperiex combined his might and consciousness with that of both Brainiac and the weaponized space station Warworld. It was only through Superman's immense strength and the clever use of a boom tube that Superman was able to send this villain back to the initial Big Bang and destroy him in the very explosion that began it all. Coming in at number 8, we're taking a brief detour into the Marvel Cinematic Universe with the Scarlet Witch versus Agatha Harkness. After multiple episodes of magic, deception, and sitcom-inspired hijinks, the grand finale of WandaVision saw our biggest magical battle in the MCU yet, with Wanda Maximoff finally starting to realize her potential as a wielder of chaos magic, and the devious Agatha Harkness attempting to seize that power for her own. With the entire battle taking place in a reality of Wanda's own making, and with the massive runes used to finally outwit Agatha, this battle was one for the ages, and it's exciting to think of where magical battles in the MCU will go next when we finally get to see Wanda again in Doctor Strange 2. At number 7, we've got another MCU adjacent battle with the Watcher versus Ultron. For the entirety of Marvel's What If's first season, the Watcher vowed to never interfere with the different stories he was telling. But when the victorious Ultron of a dark universe collected all of the Infinity Stones, he became powerful enough to become aware of both the Watcher and the multiverse. Battling across multiple realities, the Watcher was eventually forced to take action and put together a team made up of beings from across the multiple realities, becoming the Guardians of the Multiverse and finally being able to take Ultron down. Coming in at number 6, we have the Sentry versus the Incredible Hulk. After a long exile in outer space, the Hulk was understandably more than a little pissed at the Earth's heroes, and thus began the World War Hulk event as the big green monster returned to Earth. At first, the super strong hero known as the Sentry didn't want to join the battle, fearing the destruction that would take place, but soon began to relish the opportunity to fight someone he could actually punch without immediately disintegrating them. With two of the most powerful Avengers in existence clashing, the only thing that finally caused them to stop was the realization that if they both kept pushing their powers to their limit, the entire world might shatter before they do. Talk about some pretty high stakes. Coming in at number 5, we have old King Thor versus Loki the Necro God. In the distant future, at the very end of the Marvel Universe, almost all life is already extinguished as the cosmos reaches its natural death. An elderly King Thor, however, finds that he still has one last enemy to defeat, his own brother Loki, but this time empowered with the same darkness created by the dark god Null, and that technically even counts as the very first symbiote. all black the Necro sword. With few mortals left to worry about, these two gods are finally able to unleash their full powers on one another in a final battle to determine once and for all which brother will come out on top. Coming in at number 4, we have the Spectre versus the Anti-Monitor. At the very end of the event known as Crisis on Infinite Earths, all hope seemed lost. The Anti-Monitor had brought all of his enemies to the dawn of creation and begun absorbing their powers for his final act that would destroy the DC multiverse and leave only the antimatter universe remaining. But at the last possible moment, the Spectre intervened. A mysterious DC hero that's now known to literally be the embodiment of the wrath of God, the Spectre was able to single-handedly hold back the Anti-Monitor and ultimately cause the creation of a new DC universe instead of the pure destruction that the Anti-Monitor desired. At number 3, we've got to go with the climactic showdown from one of the most beloved graphic novels of all time, Dr. Manhattan vs. Ozymandias in Watchmen. This battle was more of a philosophical debate than a physical confrontation, but still led to explosive results and held the entire fate of the Watchmen universe in the balance. To do what he deemed to be necessary to save humanity, Ozymandias faked an alien invasion against the world to unite America and the USSR against the common foe. To do this, he needed to manipulate Dr. Manhattan, the most powerful being in the universe, into believing he should leave Earth as to not interfere with Ozymandias' plans. By the time Dr. Manhattan returned, it was too late to prevent millions of deaths, and thus Manhattan eventually agreed that the best course of action was to let Ozymandias' actions remain unpunished. Definitely not a typical superhero versus supervillain story, but in the Watchmen universe, this is about as close as you're gonna get. Coming in at number 2, we have Thanos versus Thor, but in a weird twist, Thanos was actually kind of the good guy in this one. During an event called Blood and Thunder, during which Thor apparently lost control of both his powers and his mind, many cosmic heroes such as Adam Warlock and the Silver Surfer had to team up to try and subdue the God of Thunder. With none of them being physically strong enough to hold down Thor, the heroes were forced to teleport Thor to the one villain that could hold his own, Thanos. While Thanos enjoyed their evenly matched fight at first, he soon realized that Thor's lack of control could prove deadly for the entire universe, and eventually was able to stun Thor with a surprise laser attack. And while Thor would eventually go back to the side of good, it's nice to know that even Thanos has some standards. Sometimes. And finally, coming in at our number 1 spot, we have the Darkest Knight versus Golden God Mode Wonder Woman. During the grand finale of the Dark Knight's death metal event, the DC multiverse seemed to be at its bleakest moment. The Batman Who Laughs had been upgraded with all of the godlike powers of Dr. Manhattan, had already defeated Perpetua, the creator of the multiverse, and was set to remake reality in his own hellish image. The only being capable of standing up to the Darkest Knight was Wonder Woman, using all of her godly energy and forging an armor of pure anti-crisis energy with the power of her lasso of truth. Even with all of this strength, Wonder Woman was just barely able to push the Darkest Knight into the final sun at the very death of the universe, putting an end to the biggest battle the DC multiverse had ever seen. That's all we've got for today's video, but if you enjoyed this list, why not hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and let us know what you think the biggest battle in all of comic book history was down in the comments below. As always, I've been Josh Busker, and I'll see you next time.